Awesome. So welcome everyone. Thank you all for attending our first virtual graduate and professional expo. My name is Layla and I am a special projects assistant at Careerspace for about a year. So just a bit about Careerspace. So they provide an authentic look on the career landscape by providing Trent students and alumni with meaningful experiences, necessary perspectives, and valuable resources. So we offer virtual appointments, workshops, and online resources to connect you with employers and recruiters. And these services are free to all Trent students and alumni once you graduate. So you can visit our website at trentu.ca/careerspace and book an appointment or learn more about our services. So we're thrilled to have some representatives from our own school, so the Faculty of Education, here with us today. So I'm just going to go ahead and mention a few housekeeping things. So Kathleen, if you could just maybe share the contact email in the chat, just
For sure.
right now. In addition, we're going to have at the end a few minutes for questions and discussion. So if you guys have any questions during the presentation, you can put them in the Q&A and we will get to them kind of at the end of the presentation. In addition, this presentation is recorded, so it will be posted on our YouTube channel about a week or so after today. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Kathleen from the Faculty of Education, and you can go ahead and introduce yourself. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So my name is Kathleen Crook. I'm the enrollment advisor for the education programs here at Trent. So primarily in my role, I assist students through the Bachelor of Education application process and kind of leading up to that. If you ever need to ask advice about the program or admissions, that's kind of what I do. And I also conduct the academic piece of the assessment. So I work very closely with the faculty and I'm kind of the go-to when it comes to admissions. So yeah, at any time, the email is posted in the chat there. It's just educationadmissions@trentu.ca. Sounds pretty general, but it comes to me and I'd be the one responding to that. So I have a short slide presentation that I'll go through now, just some broad strokes, general information about the program, the admission requirements, what those components are, and what you should be thinking of if you are going to apply. And then, as was mentioned, at the end, we can answer any questions that you have. So feel free to put those in the chat as we go, and we will get to those at the end. We'll start there. All right. So the Bachelor of Education at Trent is a consecutive program. What that means is that it's for students who have completed their undergrad already or are in their final year. So the two kinds of education programs out there are concurrent education, which means while you complete your undergrad, you would also complete portions of your Bachelor's of Education. We don't offer that at Trent anymore. We just have the consecutive. So you do your undergraduate degree, you can focus exclusively on that degree, and then at the end, you would come to the Bachelor of Education program, which is a 2-year full-time on-campus program. A note to that, obviously with COVID, there's some challenges there that we've all been experiencing at Trent and other institutions in terms of offering things on campus. So currently the program courses are all being offered online. And in terms of placements right now, it's sort of a hybrid. So depending on what our partnership boards are offering, what our students are comfortable with, there's opportunities for our students right now to both be assisting in virtual classrooms and in-person classrooms. So it's been a challenging year in that regard, but we're pressing forward for all the students that are in the program. And the main thing is we just want to make sure all of our students are coming out of our program having that significant hands-on experience that's so important with the education program. So we offer primary junior and intermediate senior. So the primary junior gives you the credentials to teach kindergarten to grade 6, and intermediate senior gives you the credentials for grades 7 to 12. If you're exploring other B.Ed programs, there's also junior intermediate. We don't offer it at Trent, but some schools do. So if you were thinking you really want to focus on that sort of middle school age group, junior intermediate is what you would be looking at. Again, we don't offer that for us, but it is out there if that's something you're considering. And within our program, we have sort of 4 areas of focus. So that's social justice and diversity in education, eco-mentorship and sustainability, game-based learning, and learning from the land and Indigenous people. So these are kind of areas that are incorporated into the course content, but we also have additional certificates and alternative setting placements that are geared towards these areas. So it's a really good fit for you, if these are things that you're already really interested in, you get to incorporate those in your Bachelor of Education. So I mentioned briefly practical experience. So within the program, across, well, I should say across the province, the minimum amount of placement that you have to become a registered teacher is 80 days. So the equivalent of 80 days, that's the minimum in Ontario. Within our program, we have 115 days. So it is very hands-on, and we want our students to come out of the program feeling very confident that they have had that exposure to classrooms and educational opportunities outside the classroom, so that when you're finished, you feel that you've really built on those skills. So 90 days, so the equivalent of 90 days is done in classroom. As I said, right now that's virtual and in person, but traditionally it would be 4 different classrooms, so 1 each semester. Then we also do 15 days of alternative setting. So that's sort of a flexible placement. I have included the link there, but if you go to trentu.ca/education, you can also see a tab that says alternative settings placement. And that'll show you some of the different opportunities that our faculty offer. And I've mentioned a few on the slide: Camp Firefly, 5 Counties Children's Center. There's a couple different opportunities for teaching ESL if you think you really want to go abroad and have an experience, again, permitting that is allowed, and many more different opportunities. So the 15 days is, we kind of encourage students to think of it as an opportunity to get experience outside the classroom in an education setting. However, you can also use it to, say, try a different division. So let's say hypothetically you're going into intermediate senior, but you would like to try a junior classroom, like a grade 5 or 6 classroom. You could use that alternative setting to do that, to get some experience in another division and see, kind of test the waters there and see if you may want to get that credential when you're finished your B.Ed. We also do 10 days of supporting literacy and learners with special needs. Typically that is done in the first semester. This year, due to COVID, we've pushed it to second semester, but usually that's the first placement that our students do. And we get a lot of positive feedback about that, because you're working just one-on-one or one-on-two with students and really focusing on literacy. And it's a nice way to sort of warm up to your new identity as a teacher candidate and a prospective teacher. So this is just a sample of what our calendar looks like for this year. It is on our website, so you can also view year 2. But I really just wanted to include this to illustrate what it looks like. So it's similar to your undergrad in that you will be taking about 5 courses each semester. But as you can see, those courses are kind of condensed into about 2 months. So you do about 2 months of coursework, right now virtually, typically on campus, and then you move into your first classroom placement, which is a 4-week block. That first one's very focused on observation, so you're not expected to get up and lead a whole classroom of grade 12 students, say. That first one is that opportunity for you to connect with a teacher as a mentor and start learning from them, and kind of do that critical reflection of what kind of approaches to learning are out there, which ones do you think will work for you, which ones maybe you've seen in practice that you think could be improved on. It's really that opportunity for you to just engage with the classroom and start building that identity. Then you come back for just a couple weeks of sort of wrap up for the semester, and then you have the winter break for 3 weeks. This year it's 3 weeks anyway, but it does typically end up being about 3 weeks. When you come back, same thing, you have just under 2 months of coursework. This particular year, that's where our literacy placement will be, so usually a couple days a week during that time. And then you do your 6-week block. So during the 6-week block placement, again, just a little bit more time there. So still pretty observational in first year, but you'll start to take on some of the planning and assignments as your sort of mentor teacher figures is appropriate. And then you would have a week off for March break. When you come back, we do professional events week. So both in year 1 and year 2, you get to attend different workshops and seminars that are all focused on how you're going to take all of these skills and get a job afterwards. So we have job fairs, interview practice, different writing opportunities, and they'll also have sometimes partners come in and talk about, again, just some different things that you can do with your B.Ed. So that's just sort of the typical year. And obviously we will find out as we go how next year's going to look. But our main things, our focus is to make sure that all of our students are still getting all that really valuable theory and content in their courses, and then are getting that valuable experience in whatever way we can do that in the current climate. So moving right on to admissions. So if you are interested in applying to our program as a Trent student, you still need to apply through the Teacher Education Application Service, which is a mouthful. It's that link that I've listed sort of a few points down. It's through OUAC. So on OUAC, where you did your application for university, there's a special little box that says Teacher Education. So that's where most of the applications are for universities in Ontario. There are a few that aren't in there, and that tends to be secular institutions. So there are a few of those that you can find on your own. They're listed on the OCT website, but most of the universities are there. That's an extremely helpful website because you can view all the different guides and admission requirements for every program that you might want to apply to. And it works very similar as your undergrad in that you, with one fee, you get 3 applications, and then you can add applications to that. So what we require is completion of an undergraduate degree. That's a requirement for starting the program. So you can apply in your final year. I'd say most of our applicants are in their final year when they apply, but you do need to complete your undergraduate degree before you start the Bachelor of Education. We look for a minimum of 70% in your last 10 full course equivalents at the time of application. So with Trent students, we will typically do a GPA calculation twice. So we'll do it once based on what we have before the deadline, which is December 1st. And then we will usually do another one with your fall grades and see which benefits you most. That's just one of the advantages for our Trent students applying to our program. We're able to access those grades right away when they become available. So we do have that flexibility. As long as the minimum GPA is met, you move on to stage 2 of the application, which is the profile of experience. So at that point, your application is weighted 50-50 on experience and academics. And in terms of any additional things, really just for intermediate senior applicants, you have to have sufficient teachable courses. So whatever subject's going to be your first teaching subject, you have to have 5 full credits or 10 semester courses in that subject area. And you need to have 3 full credits or 6 semester courses if it's your second. The exception to that is French. If French is going to be your second, you have to have 4 full credits. That's because it's a second language, and we want to make sure that you're proficient and comfortable enough to be in that for your teaching subject. So, so I mentioned the profile of experience. So the profile is weighted as half of your assessment. So it is really valuable. And it's going to ask you a few things. So the form becomes available on the My Trent portal, usually 24 to 48 hours after you apply. It'll be under the academics tab with admissions documents, and it'll say B.Ed profile of experience part 1. There's also B.Ed profile course list, which is a part 2. We used to have them all in one form. Due to just how we're running things electronically, we've split them into 2. Essentially on that form, you're going to ask to identify your teaching stream. So if you would like to be in the public or Catholic stream for your placements. In terms of how the programs differ, if you're in the public or the Catholic, it's not much. There is one additional course you take if you're interested in teaching in the Catholic boards. It's weighted as 0.25 credit. So if you think of that, it's like a quarter of a course that we would normally have. And that's just religious education. That's required for Catholic school teachers. And then, yeah, you can just kind of decide for yourself which one you'd like to do for your placements. So that's on the form. There's also a couple other points. I didn't include this on the slideshow because I normally do it for external applicants as well. But if you're in the teacher education stream program, or you're in the child and youth studies program, or both, you also have little check boxes there just to notify us that you're in those programs. We can usually tell by your transcript, but we do ask you to declare that on the profile. So you can also check off if you're in one of those 2 programs at Trent. And then you're going to do a point form experience list. So we ask you to list the 5 most relevant teaching teaching related or life experiences that you want us to know about. Sometimes students have more than 5, that's totally okay, but we do ask you to narrow it down to the 5 that you think show breadth in your experiences and are sort of a good representation of the different things that you have been able to experience. In the second part, you're going to critically reflect on those experiences. So we ask you to choose 3 experiences from that list and expand on them. And we really want to know what impact they had on you as a prospective teacher. So by that, I'm trying to draw your attention to the fact that the first part is more like a resume. So that's where you can include just, your key duties and responsibilities, a bit about what you did in the experience. The second part, what sets a strong profile apart. We don't want you to reiterate what's in the first section. So it's not about what you did as a camp counselor or what you were responsible for as a tutor. It's more about what you took away from that. The profile is read by teachers in our partnership boards and our faculty. So it's being read by teachers, by educators, and people who are passionate about education. So what they really want to see is how passionate you are about education and how your experiences have really led you to your decision to become a teacher and what you've taken away. We don't expect that you're going to know everything. Because why would the program exist if you already know everything about being a teacher? So you might talk about some things that you've learned that you feel have prepared you for the program, but you can also talk about things that you're excited to learn more about. Maybe you didn't have the opportunity to do a lot of curriculum and kind of figuring out how to plan courses, but you were able to do lesson planning for tutoring and found that really exciting and want to learn more. So you can talk about those things as well. There's more information on the website. We have an applicant handbook that kind of fleshes it out a little bit more. So there's lots of things you can talk about. A good way to think of the profile is it's our opportunity to get to know you as an applicant. We don't have the resources to interview everyone, so really this is our shot at getting to know you and why you want to become a teacher. We also ask for reference contact information for 2 references. We do ask that they both be folks who can talk about your experiences. You can use faculty. We just caution if you are going to use faculty that it be someone who knows you pretty well and is comfortable answering questions about your leadership abilities and things like that. So if you've done like a research practicum with someone, or maybe you've had a prof throughout your time at Trent and they're aware of your goals and you think that they would be a good reference, then that is good. But we do send them sort of a short survey asking them some questions about you as a prospective teacher. So it can be faculty, but just make sure that it's someone who knows you well enough that they can answer some of those questions. So as I mentioned briefly, there is a second part of the profile, which is just a course list form. It used to be a part of the profile, but we had to split it out this year. So you'll see B.Ed profile part 1 and B.Ed profile course list part 2. And they're just forms on the MyTrent portal after you apply. And applicants to the PJ division, so if you're coming in for primary junior, there are no firm requirements for courses, but you do have the opportunity to let us know if you've taken breadth subject courses. So that's courses in like arts, sciences, languages, social studies, your history or geography. PJ teachers do a little bit of everything in a day. So if you've taken any of those subjects, it's just an opportunity for you to list them and just kind of show us that you've taken this wide variety. Maybe you're in the social sciences and you had, a history and an English elective and maybe a stats course. It's like, that's great. You can include those. That's a math and English and a history. So they're not firm requirements. Like I said, for intermediate senior, little different story, but for PJ, you're still able to use that form to just showcase some of the courses that you've taken. For the intermediate senior, those are firm requirements. So you will choose from a drop-down menu what subject it is you've applied to, and then you're going to fill in the Trent courses. You can just pull up a copy of your academic record and just kind of copy paste them in. Really, we're going to look at your transcript anyway, but this form is to help us if we're not finding the courses that you need for your teaching subject. We can use this form to refer back to see which ones you want us to consider. Perhaps they're cross-listed courses and we just weren't able to see that on your transcript. So we do ask that you do both forms, the profile, mandatory requirement, course list form, also mandatory, but again, it's more of a support that goes with your transcript. Finally, Trent University is committed to social justice and encourages applicants from persons traditionally underrepresented in the teaching profession. So this is our equity admission form. So if you identify as a person of Indigenous heritage, a person of a visible minority, and or a person with a disability, you can apply for equity admission, and it's just a form that you fill out on the My Trent portal after doing that TEAS application. It's self-declaration only, so you are not required to write anything about that or provide any supporting documents. It's self-declaration, so it's just completing that form to let us know you'd like to be considered for equity admission. So finally, I already put my email address in the little chat box, but again, my name is Kathleen Crook, so I'm sort of the first point of contact for your admissions questions. I mentioned the TEAS website, so ouac.on.ca/TEAS, or if you just go to OUAC, you'll see that little teacher education box. And then, yeah, our handbook is just on the education website. It's on the right-hand side. And again, it just provides a bit more detail into the profile and some other things that maybe I didn't have time to touch on. But you can also contact me afterwards if you have further questions.
Perfect. And that was a great presentation. Thank you so much. We do have some questions and we have about 4 minutes left. So
Perfect.
Our first question is, how long does it take most students to graduate? So are they kind of graduating that 2-year span, or is it kind of more flexible?
Yeah, so typically it is a 2-year program. So it isn't as flexible as an undergrad in that there aren't courses being offered sort of every semester. So it's very scaffolded in that you're doing year 1, semester 1, year 1, semester 2, then you have a break over the summer, and then you come back for year 2. We have had students that, due to a variety of reasons, may need to take a reduced course load. That is okay, but students should know that that might double the year of your program potentially, or at least add another year because of when courses are offered. So let us know as early as possible if that's something that you require or would like to explore, but it isn't technically offered as a part-time program.
Yeah, perfect. Just another question. Could you talk a bit about scholarship and funding opportunities?
Yeah, so in terms of scholarships, it's a bit different from your undergrad in that we don't offer like intake scholarships when you come in based on your average. So we're not eligible for that because we're a 2-year program, but you are still eligible for OSAP, the regular bursaries that Trent offers. Some are performance-based, some are specific to financial needs. So those are all still available to you. And then I also have a little handout. Usually we give it to students at our welcome reception if they've been admitted, but if the student who asked that question, if you want to send me an email, I can reply and give you sort of the resources that financial aid has provided me with, and they have a link to some different scholarships and bursaries that are specific to education students.
Perfect. And another question. So they're in the forensic science program at Trent and have taken enough bio and chem courses to satisfy the 5 and 3 credits for teachables. But to satisfy degree requirements on their transcript, they're listed as forensic courses, not bio and chem, even though they're cross-listed. Is this a problem?
No, not a problem. Yeah, I've got all of those highlighted in the book. So yeah, they don't have to worry about that. Again, you'll still do the course list, so you can still, you know, copy and paste the names of those courses in. But yeah, that's no problem. All the ones that have been cross-listed are fine. If there's a course as well, like sometimes there are courses that aren't technically cross-listed, but have a lot of content. We see that with nursing a lot, where they are eligible for biology, they're just not cross-listed because they're specific nursing. We can take a look at that and our faculty will evaluate for you as well. So if you do have any questions about that, you can always check with me, but yeah, any that are cross-listed in the calendar are good to go.
Perfect. And just one last question we have. They said, do you have any advice for creating a great personal statement?
Yeah, so again, for Trent, like ours is the profile of experience. So you have 500 words or less to convey a lot of information about yourself. In terms of writing it, I would suggest doing, you know, what we call an ideas dump. Put everything into that one document that you think you want to include, and then just start editing it and paring it down. I always encourage you to get it edited by either folks in our advising or career services, or just people you know. If you even have a teacher that you found very influential, you know, you can always reach out to them and see if they can read it, because it is read by teachers. So definitely edit it. It is scored by teachers, so grammatical, spelling things, no good. Got to make sure that's all tidied up. It's tricky. I feel for students because every institution has their own version of what the profile should be. So it's hard to keep them all straight, just what everyone's asking you to do. But for Trent's, just try and remember that it's about impact. So how your experience has impacted you, and it's kind of that qualitative versus quantitative approach. So it's awesome if you've had 300 hours of classroom experience, but we don't have a firm requirement for that. For us, it's more, what did you take away from those experiences? So you can always, again, consult with those supports that Trent has. Sometimes there is an actual workshop that is run by the Center for Teaching and Learning. Robin Hanley has offered that in the past. I don't know if there's a posting date for one this year, but keep an eye out because those kinds of resources are great as well.
Perfect. Well, that fit our time absolutely perfectly. So thank you again for just coming out and presenting this information. It was super
Awesome.
informative. And thank you to all of our students for taking the time of your days to attend to learn about these opportunities within our own Trent community, which is even better. So with that, I will end the meeting, but thank you again.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too.